Hello, fellow runners. We're going to take you through some dynamic stretches. We're going to start from the ground up. So the very first stretch is going to be an active gastrocnemius or gastroc stretch. And I'm going to position myself in a split stance position, up nice and tall. And we're going to stretch, keeping the foot straight for this first one. And we're just going to raise up on the toes for 1 second and then drop down into the full second for 5 seconds. Up for 1, down for 5. And then we're going to turn the foot towards the inside. When you turn the foot towards the inside, just make sure the pelvis stays square. And then the same exact thing, up for 1 second, down for 5. Gets a different branch of the muscle belly. And then we're going to turn the foot a little bit to the outside. And keeping the heel down, pelvis stays square. Up for 1 second, down for 5. That will get the 3 different branches of your gastroc through your Achilles. The next one is to get the soleus, deeper calf muscle, and you're going to be in a position which I like to call jump ball. And both knees are bent, both heels are down. And then the active component is, again, raising up for 1 second, dropping down for 5. Up for 1, down for 5. When you do the gastroc stretch and when you do the soleus stretch, just make sure you're getting the pressure across all 5 toes. This will also stretch your plantar fascia. Moving on, we're going to take our next step up the chain. We're going to stretch our hamstrings first. This is a great one to do, feet shoulders width apart. You're going to hip hinge, which means you're going to send your hips all the way back. Knees are straight. Your body, your back to your legs should look like a right angle or the letter L. And we're going to start with small bend to the knees, and then we're going to straighten it all the way through, keeping your letter L position. This is an active hamstring stretch. And right now the feet are in the straight alignment. Bend, and then pushing it through to straight. Same thing, about a 1 second in the bend, about a 5 seconds in the straight. Then we're going to turn the feet inwards, okay? And same motion, bend, and taking it through to straight. This will get as part of the lateral hamstrings in for you. 1 second in the bend, 5 seconds in the straight, heel stays down, and keep pushing through the back of your hips. Then we're going to turn the feet a little outwards, and we're going to do the same thing. Bent to straight. This will get your hamstrings in a 3-dimensional fashion, which is important. And then we'll come back to the straight configuration. Okay, so now we're going to actually drop back down to the gastroc muscle again. We're going to hip hinge. And as we're down in this same position, now we're going to keep the knees straight, and we're going to just pull up the foot and ankle. And hold that, if you can, about a 1 to 5 seconds. Maintaining your hip hinge, your letter L position, and the knees as straight as you can. So that's a great stretch for your gastroc. And we'll come up out of that again. And now we're going to take through the outside of the hips and the inside of the hips. So we're going to come back into that nice hip hinge to start with. Feet are about shoulders width apart. And now we're going to press through the sides of the hips laterally, right and left. With the knees, the legs closer together, you're going to feel this more in the outside of your hips. If we take a wider stance with that, you're going to feel this more on the inside of the hips. So again, a nice hip hinge. And now we're going to feel that more in the inner thigh, your adductor muscle group. As we do, and this one, the knee can bend a little bit. The stretch is on the leg that has the knee straight. What's nice about this hip hinge series of exercises, you can get all those muscle groups done at once. Now the next one we'll try is going to be for the IT band. So we're going to cross, your left leg is going to cross behind your right. This is the leg that's going to feel the stretch. Again, we're going to hip hinge. And as we're in the hip hinge, we're pressing back. And then we're also pressing over to that hip, to the leg that's in the rear. Back and forth. And you'll feel that coming down the outside of the hip. And then if I were going to do that same one for the right leg, again, the right leg's crossed behind the left. First move is to hip hinge back, and then I'm going to press over to the right. Just breathing as I'm stretching into that. Great. Okay. Another muscle group that needs to be addressed is hip flexors. Hip flexors, we're going to put one knee down and staying up nice and tall. The area that's going to be stretched is going to be this area. And what I want you to do is you're just leaning forward. But before you lean forward, you have to tighten up your core. You don't want to be leaning with your back in an arch position. You want to stay active, tighten up the core, and then come straight forward. And then taking it forward again. You can add the you can add the quadriceps to that by reaching behind you and then just pulling up the knee as well. So that'll get into the rectus muscle or the quad. So that's a nice one. Two different things. Upper hip flexors, psoas, and then the rectus. And then last but not least, if you're a runner, you want to have maximal capacity of your thoracic spine for movement, to be able to move your torso around, propelling you forward, also bring in the lungs and oxygenation especially for longer distance runs. So if you put one foot in front of the other, your hands are going to go behind the back of the head. We're going to work on thoracic mobility, T-spine mobility. So you're going to rotate as far as you can go to the right. Then you're going to dip, or we call that side bending, your elbow down towards your buttocks. Come out of that and see if you can go a little further in the stretch. So again, the leg that's in front is the side that you're going to rotate towards. So we're going to rotate first. Then we're going to dip. Come out of the dip, but don't lose the rotation, and see if you can do a little further. And I'll show you that just real quick on the left side as well. And then that's a wrap. So we're going to rotate, dip, out of the dip, further rotation. Notice that I am not bringing my pelvis around, that stays square. One more time, rotation, side bending, out of it, and rotation. They're the main muscle groups that I would stretch prior to running, after a very light warm-up, and absolutely after a run is the most important time to maintain, lengthen those tissues, kind of flush out the lactic acid, prevent muscle injuries in the future. Enjoy. Thank you so much.